So remember, Pedro goes out and just blows everyone away for 2 innings. It was breathtaking to watch. So he goes into the clubhouse after his 2 innings, and Ted Williams is in there. And Ted Williams looks at Pedro Martinez and goes, "That's some of the greatest stuff I've ever seen in my life." And Pedro calls that the highlight of his career, that the greatest hitter he's ever seen paid him that kind of compliment. That's why the All-Star game still works, Case, in baseball, is they bring Ted Williams to the mound, and we get to see Pedro Martinez throwing as hard as he can and wanting to strike out everyone on the other team.
I'm in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top. Keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. The good life. Good life. Oh, good life. Good life. Good life. Good life.
Boom, coming in hot, Chinch on a Monday. What's up, brother?
Oh, big one, man. This guy I consider one of my mentors, and he is probably one of the game's greatest ambassadors. So I'm just going to leave it to you to introduce
No,
him.
he really is, man. This guy is one of my favorite guys that I've ever crossed paths with in the game of baseball. Just really a historian, what he's done, worked for Sports Illustrated for years, ESPN since 1998. We know him a lot on Baseball Tonight. Wrote some books, too. 2022 was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame with the BBWAA Career Excellence Award winner, because this guy is one of the best in this industry he's ever seen. So let's bring in our good friend, Tim Kurkjian. Tim, what's up, brother?
How are you, Sean? And understand that Chinch likes me because I'm the only guy in the world who's shorter than him. It's close, but he's taller, bigger, stronger, everything than me. So when we worked a lot of Baseball Tonights together, and Chinch and I were the little guys sitting in the corner. We loved it.
We love it.
That's so great, man. Oh, it's so great. Tim, what are you doing right now? I know you're doing some Baseball Tonight, but what does your schedule look like for these next couple of weeks or months, really?
Well, the next 2 months are going to be crazy. I'm going to do a bunch of games for ESPN radio from the booth, which I absolutely love. I've been doing that for years. And then I'll do a series on TV, one of the Wildcard series I'll get, which is the greatest thing ever because it's playoff baseball. There's nothing better than that. Then I'll do the LDS and LCS on the radio with Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez, which is the absolute greatest time ever. And then I'll do the World Series, and that'll get us to the beginning of November. So I have like not much time between now and then, but Case, you know how great this time of year is. Once September rolls in, there is nothing, and I mean nothing better than September/October baseball.
This is the best time of year for us that are watching the game, for the fans and also for the players. I was saying the other day, as a player in September, when you're in it, it feels like Christmas morning every day you go to the yard, getting ready to play. Tim, I want to ask you about that. I really think this wild card system is incredible because now you're looking up and down the wild card. You got the Padres in it, the Diamondbacks, the Mets, and the Braves all locked in there with the Cubs and Cardinals just a little outside. Then you go over to the AL where you got the Orioles, the Royals, the Twins, the Tigers kind of lurking, the Mariners kind of lurking. What do you think about this about the wild card system? And one other question too: would you rather be the division leader, the division winner, or the wild card winner?
I understand what happened to the division winners last year. I understand 3 100-win teams went down. But in the end, I'll take one less series and more time off than anything else. Look, Sean, I understand this is a daily game, and it's played best when it's played every day. And when you play 162 games in 180 days, and then you take a week off before you play a playoff game, that is not good and it's not healthy. And yet, I would still rather do that than get my pitching all fouled up in a wild card series and have everyone exhausted before we even get to the LDS. Plus, the integrity of the regular season still really matters. If we're going to play a marathon season, then we have to have something to show for it. If you win your division, you deserve a break. You deserve some good spots to be put in. So I'm all for it, but I can understand you're rolling into the playoffs as a hot wild card team. You don't want to stop. You want to just keep beating everyone, as the Rangers certainly proved last year.
Do you like the 3 game series that they put in? Because I do think though, Tim, like you got the 3 games there, then you get a day off, so it's like 5 days before and these guys are such a creatures of rhythm. There's something about the rhythm of, especially as a hitter. Like, would you ever want to go back to the 1 game, or do you like the 3 game?
Well, this is certainly more fair to all the teams to get 3 games. I kind of like the 1 game because it gave a game 7 atmosphere to October the 2nd, which is really, really cool. But I understand this. What I would do, and I'm not in charge because no one else is in charge, is just as soon as a wild card series is over, you start the next series. All right. You can't let the Orioles or the Braves or anyone who got knocked out with 100 wins last year wait until Saturday, having finished on Sunday. That's just not right. So let's pack them in. Let's be more flexible with the schedule, and let's get teams playing as often as possible.
I like that. Who do you like in the NL? With those teams there, when you have the Padres, the Diamondbacks, Mets, and Braves, who do you think are the 3 teams that get out of there in that wild card?
Well, again, Sean, this is the beauty of the 2024 season. I have no idea what's going on right now. I have never seen in 45 years of covering baseball where we get to September the 9th and I don't know who the best team is. I think 10 teams could get to and win the World Series. Give me another sport where that happens. When Jordan's Bulls were in their prime, we knew who was going to win. When the Warriors had Clay and Steph and KD going, we kind of knew who was going to win. But in baseball, we have no idea right now who's going to win. So I think, to answer your question, the wild cards in the National League will be the Diamondbacks and the Padres. What they might be the 2 best teams in the league right now, even though the Phillies are really good, obviously. And then we're going to come down, I think, between the Braves and the Mets for that final wild card spot. And how beautiful would that be? The Mets were the worst team in baseball in May, and here they still have a chance to make the playoffs. Only in baseball can you go from really good to really bad, and vice versa, so quickly and usually without explanation. That's why the game is so, so good.
That's incredible. What about in the American League with the O's and the Yankees? Who do you think is going to win the East? When
Well, well, again, I am totally confused. I'm equally confused by the American League. I'm going to say the Yankees are going to win the division, but if they don't, I won't be surprised at all. Nothing would surprise me at all out of the American League. I just like that, Judge hadn't gotten going again, 2 weeks without a homer. That's going to change. Soto's going to get hot again. I think their pitching is a little better than people think. They got to solve the bullpen, but the Orioles have similar holes. Case, everyone has a hole in the major leagues right now, and that's what's so good about it. You find it, you exploit it, and you can knock a really good team out.
Yeah, it looks like no team's going to win 100 games this year, which is
Last time that happened was 2014. It's been 10 years since any
wow.
team went without winning 100. And I thought 3 teams would win 100 this year, if not more. But it just shows you the beauty of the sport, that you're off in your timing just a little bit. Something goes wrong, one injury, and suddenly you're not so great anymore.
Incredible, incredible. Well, I have to ask you, Tim, what do you think about Ohtani and what he's doing? And do you think, I know some people had said, the 50 stolen bases, if he gets there, the bases are bigger, but he's still sitting at second in the big leagues at stolen bases. What do you think about Ohtani, and what's your impression when you watch that guy play?
Well, he's already reached 45-45. No one's ever done that. He's going to reach 50-50. I'm pretty sure about that. Keep in mind, Sean, no one has ever gone 50-25, and he's going to go 50-50. And he's
Wow.
doing it as a designated hitter, meaning a completely different role than the one he had last year. And just just the thought that the first 50-50 guy in Major League history also has a career ERA of 3.01 and strikes out 11.4 guys per 9 innings in his career. It's just impossible to think he I don't think there's a way around this. He's the most remarkable player we've ever seen. That doesn't necessarily mean he's better than Babe Ruth, who did this, what he's doing for a little while longer and all, but it's incredible what he's doing. It's breathtaking to watch every move that he makes.
Man, he's almost like one of the guys you feel like back when Griffey Jr. was playing, like, oh, you know what? I got to get to that many RBIs. Okay, I'm gonna, I gotta hit this many home runs in a row at games. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Like I almost feel like there's certain guys that like Ohtani sees 50-50 and he's like, oh, I'm gonna steal 3 bags in one game and I'm just gonna keep hitting homers. Do you feel
Right.
that way when you watch him?
Yeah, it feels like he can do whatever he wants. In case the one thing that I know and I have always known and I will never forget is that baseball is the hardest game in the world to play. And this thought that someone could just say, okay, I'm going to go 50-50 this year, or I'm going to do kind of whatever I want to do here. That it's just not built. That game is not built for somebody to do that, but he can do it. I'll never forget the first time I saw him play spring training, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was. He ran out a triple, and I went, "Oh my gosh, this guy is a pitcher. He is a gazelle. He can run like the wind. He can hit a ball thrown at 100 miles an hour. He can throw a ball 100, and he can hit it off the bat well over 100. No one, not even Babe Ruth, has ever done that."
Wow, it's incredible. Do you think Lindor has a shot at the MVP?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to win. I think Ohtani's going to win, and I think he's going to win unanimously. However, I am leaving the door open, Sean. Let's just say Lindor goes ballistic these final 3 weeks and finishes with 35 homers and 40 steals and literally carries the Mets into the playoffs, passes the Braves, and they've made this resurgence with him at the top of the order. Not to mention, he's one of the best defensive shortstops in the league, and he's the heart and soul of that team. I am not going to say for sure, all right, Ohtani's definitely winning, not with 3 weeks to go. Remember, Case, 1999, Chipper Jones just dismantled the Mets down the stretch, got the Braves in the playoffs. That's how he won the MVP. I'm afraid that we are making this a Player of the Year award instead of the most valuable player. And I think Francisco Lindor has a chance. Do I think he's going to win? No. Would I vote for Ohtani now? Of course I would. But you have to leave this open and see what happens just in case something amazing happens.
That's a great point because sometimes I think with the analytics now, you can make a case for so many different guys for whatever number that you value. And I think back, like when I think about, I was with the Red Sox in '08. Dustin Pedroia wins the MVP for the '08 Red Sox, and like you're like, okay, he's got good numbers, but a lot of guys have better numbers. But for what he meant to the team, he was the most valuable player. Do you think the analytics nowadays, Tim, are starting to like take that most valuable player, make it okay? You could be on the worst team in baseball and still win the MVP because your numbers in the WAR category or whatever it is are better than a certain guy.
Yeah, that worries me because I've been a voter for these postseason awards for 43 years. And when I first started, the word valuable was really, really important. I mean, when Kirk Gibson won the MVP in '88 for the Dodgers, I think he drove in 88 runs. Okay. The numbers were not overwhelming, but you ask everyone on the Dodgers, how did you win the division that year? And they said, well, that guy joined the team and he brought a certain energy, athleticism, and fire to the club. So I still factor those things in. And I think I'm in the minority now. Listen, the name of the game is to win. If you carry your team into the playoffs and you're the reason we made the playoffs, you're going to get extra credit points from me. I just don't think we're giving extra credit points nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, I agree. Chinch and I had a great talk too, and especially on guys with certain numbers. And I want to go to a guy that we're talking about Hall of Fame maybe in a few years from now is Joey Votto. Because you look at Joey Votto and you look at the numbers, you're like, close to Cooperstown. Did some big things with on base percentage for years. Has the body of work, just over 2,000 hits. The number of 3,000 used to be the big one, 500 homers. But I think that's changing with the voters. What do you think of Joey Votto? Is he a slam dunk Cooperstown player? And also, if he gets into Cooperstown, do we have to now go back and look with the Veterans Committee at guys like Lance Berkman and guys like Will Clark and guys like Don Mattingly and some of the guys and Dale Murphy, some of the guys that maybe got overlooked? But if you take these new numbers and you start looking at players in the past, all of a sudden they look better.
Yes, absolutely. I would vote for Joey Votto at right now. I don't think he's going to be a slam dunk Hall of Famer, but he's got an OPS over 900. He led the league in on base percentage 7 times, including 4 years in a row. He is the 25th highest on base percentage in the history of baseball for that many plate appearances. And, he's one of the best hitters we've ever seen. Sean, I saw him once in spring training where he was in spring training just purposely hitting line drives in over the third base dugout into foul territory, like purposely doing that. I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, you got to learn to fight off a tough pitch and just stay in the at bat with a foul ball. I'm just learning and practicing how to do that." To me, that's who Joey Votto is. Also, remember the heat he took when this was only a few years ago when they said, "Joey, you walk too much. You don't expand the strike zone. You don't hit the ball out of the ballpark." So he got angry and he said, "All right, do you want to see me hit a bunch of homers?" So he hit 36 homers at age 35 when he had hit a certain way for his entire career. And then he decides, okay, I'm going to hit another way now. And he hits home runs at a really stout pace. Only a great hitter can do that. But yes, if Todd Helton's in, if Joey Votto gets in, sure, we have to look at some other guys. Don Mattingly was the best player in the game for a 5-year period. Dale Murphy was the best player in the league for probably a 5-year period. There's so many, and Lance Berkman was one of the best hitters I've ever seen. One of the great switch hitters of all time. He didn't even make 1 year on the ballot. That was criminal. He's got an OPS over 900. So this is why the whole Hall of Fame argument is so difficult. I've been voting for that for well over 30 years, and it is so difficult to get it right because so many guys make a really good case.
Tim, what about for you, man? You go back to 2002, get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame with the BBWAA Career Excellence Award. What did that mean to you, man, as far as like your career, how you love this game so much? I think that's one thing we love about you, man. Even when I was playing, even now when I see you around the ballpark, like that guy loves baseball and the way you've loved it. What did it mean for you for that to happen a couple years ago?
Well, it was certainly a highlight of my career, and there's not a close second. I was, by the way, in line at the Harris Teeter grocery store, hoping I would get the call, but I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it, period, and I didn't expect it early. So I'm in the grocery store and I'm like dragging a rotisserie chicken across the self-serve scanner when Jack O'Connell calls me with the news, and I just started to cry right there at the Harris Theater. I'm sure I'm the only recipient ever to do that. So the next morning, Johnny Bench, the greatest catcher of all time, called me on the phone
Oh,
to say, "Tim, welcome to the club. You're one of us now." And, let's face it. Come on, Case. I'm not one of them, all right?
yeah.
They're the players. I'm a writer. There's an enormous difference, all right? But then Johnny says to me over the phone, this is 8 o'clock in the morning. He goes, "Tim, it's moments like this that bring you back to Little League." And I was just about ready to cry again. And he said, "And let's face it, you could still fit into a Little League uniform." So classic Johnny Bench. But I can tell you 100 stories from that weekend, and I'll never forget any of them because it was the highlight of my professional career, and nothing will ever come close to that.
Can you give us one of those stories that one maybe a guy you ran into or a conversation you had where it was like, I can't believe I'm here?
Well, I was on the bus on Sunday going to the real induction, not the writer's induction on Saturday. And there's one seat left on the bus, and everyone on the bus is a Hall of Famer. There's one seat left. So this very regal, elegant looking gentleman comes up to me and says, "Can I sit next to you?" And it was Sandy Koufax.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. So I know Sandy Koufax. I've talked to him, of course. I've interviewed him. So now I'm sitting next to him and we're going to drive over to the induction ceremony. So I know Sandy, if you ask him the wrong question, the interview might not, or the discussion might not go very well. So I pulled an audible here, called an audible case. Sandy was a great basketball player at the University of Cincinnati, and I love basketball. It's the only other thing other than baseball that I understand, that and 60s sitcoms, but that's not the point. So I looked at Sandy Koufax and I said, could you dunk it easily when you were in college? Because he's only 6 feet tall. So now his eyes lighten up like this. And he shows me his hands, his historically big hands. And he goes, "Look how big my hands are." He said, "I could palm it easily," which I already knew. He said, "But look how long my arms are." He said, "I wear a 37-inch sleeve." So
What?
he's got these enormous hands, these unusually long arms, and he's this fabulous athlete. So he told me he could dunk it easily when he was in college. And I spoke to him for 15 minutes in an engrossing conversation. And it was entirely about basketball. And we were at the Baseball Hall of Fame. This was so great that I could engage with him on something as opposed to, "Hey, Sandy, tell me about that great curveball and why did you retire in your prime?" He's heard those a million times. But believe me, it's a long time since anyone asked him, "Could you dunk it easily?"
Dude, aren't you glad that all those years, bro, the skills that you developed being around players, knowing what the question they ask, you sit with Sandy Koufax on the way to the Hall of Fame induction, and you're like, I'm going to ask him about basketball because I know that'll be a conversation that lasts.
Right. And I prayed that his eyes lit up, and they did. It was so good. So, yes, Sandy sitting next to me was pretty good. By the way, one other, Johnny Bench on the Friday night before the Saturday induction. Johnny walks through. My entire family is there, my two brothers who were great college baseball players. So I say to Johnny, I said, could we get some pictures with you and my brothers? They would really like that. So he goes, "Sure." So he comes over and he takes out his camera and he starts taking pictures of all the Kurkjian boys and all the Kurkjian family. And finally, after 10 minutes, which was great, I had to say, "Johnny, listen, we want to take a picture with you." So, so he goes, "Okay." So he gives the camera to this other gentleman and says, "Can you take a picture of me with the Kurkjian family?" And the gentleman was Paul Molitor. So now Paul Molitor, who had more hits than Willie Mays, is taking a picture of Johnny Bench with the Kurkjian boys. So those are just two stories that happened to me on Hall of Fame weekend, and you wonder why I'll never forget anything like that.
Oh, so
Oh man, only in Cooperstown can you have that story. It's the only place you could have that story.
Only in Cooperstown. It's so good.
I want to ask you one more question before we get you out of here because there's so many questions I want to ask you. But Juan Soto will play for who next year?
All right, Chinch, that's an impossible question, but I'm going to take a guess. Let's make sure we all understand. I'm guessing, I'm speculating like we all are. I think he's going to play for the Yankees next year. I think he is a transcendent hitter. I think I don't think they can let him get away. I mean, they've missed out on some important people. Granted, they re-signed Aaron Judge, but the thought of Judge and Soto in the same batting order for the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, how in the world do you let that get away? In case you can really understand this, when Soto joined that team, everyone on the team watched him hit and they went, "Well, that's what a professional at bat looks like." He didn't chase that pitch. He didn't give up an at bat by swinging at a bad pitch on the first pitch, and everyone has learned from him. The Judge was already a great hitter, but he's gotten even better with Soto in there. Now, granted, the Mets, some other team could just come blow everyone away, but I think more games the Yankees win and the further they advance in the playoffs, the better their chances are of signing Juan Soto. That's how I see it, but that could change many times over the next few months.
Yeah, I can't imagine too. Seeing Soto and Judge 2-3 in that lineup, I can't imagine like moving forward the Yankees they would not try to sign him back and not give him at least close to what the Mets or somebody else is going to offer him, because he's just too good. Tim, one more question before we go, because I was there in '99 and you talking about Cooperstown, and I just felt like that '99 All-Star game was like such a cool venue for all of us. Do you have any stories from that game, or what are your best memories of the '99 All-Star game?
Well, the best part of the '99 All-Star game was pregame to me, because if you remember, they wheeled Ted Williams out in the wheelchair to the pitcher's mound, and they announced him as the greatest hitter of all time. And I watched those players because I was down on the field, and they were literally hesitant to go near him because that's Ted Williams. That is baseball royalty. So typically, this was not a surprise. Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken Jr. like talked everyone into crowding around Ted Williams. And he looked at Mark McGwire, and who was in his prime at the time, and he said, when you really crush a ball, can you smell the smoke coming off of your bat? And like McGuire's like, oh my God, Ted Williams just spoke to me, because everyone on that field case recognized, I don't care what anyone says about this, they looked at Ted Williams and said, if he were in his prime right now, he would be the best hitter on the field. Where if this was a great football player or basketball player, say from the 40s or 50s, I don't think anyone would look at him and say that guy would be the best player today, but only in baseball. So the pregame was the highlight, of course, until Pedro Martinez went out there. And with the greatest stuff that I have ever seen in my career, 45 years covering baseball. At one point, Case, you faced him, you know this. Best curveball, best changeup, best fastball in the game, all at the same time. Tell me another pitcher who had the three best pitches in the game all at the same time. So remember, Pedro goes out and just blows everyone away for 2 innings. It was breathtaking to watch. So he goes into the clubhouse after his 2 innings, and Ted Williams is in there. And Ted Williams looks at Pedro Martinez and goes, that's some of the greatest stuff I've ever seen in my life. And Pedro calls that the highlight of his career, that the greatest hitter he's ever seen paid him that kind of compliment. That's why the All-Star game still works, Case, in baseball, is they bring Ted Williams to the mound, and we get to see Pedro Martinez throwing as hard as he can and wanting to strike out everyone on the other team. I will never forget that. That's my favorite All-Star game ever, and I've seen every one of them since '81.
Wow, man. I got the chills with you telling that story. That is only in baseball, I think, that how you revere the talent, with the Ted Williams saying to a Pedro Martinez, Pedro, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, Ted Williams, one of the greatest hitters of all time, saying that, and then you can have that moment where Pedro says one of the greatest moments of his career was what Ted Williams said to him, man. Great, incredible story, man. Incredible story. Incredible time with you, Tim. Thank you so much, brother, for taking your time for Chinch and I today and coming inside the mayor's office. And I'm sure I'll catch you at some point here in the postseason or at a ballpark here soon, man. And best of luck to you, brother.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'll be at a lot of parks coming up here soon. I'm sure I'll see both of you sometime. So, Chinch, thanks a lot. Sean, thanks a lot. I'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, Tim.
Thanks for classing to join up today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. See you.
See you, brother.